What are you following me for?
Who's
you
on the
wanna
show
know-
today, Dave?
You want to know who's on the show?
Who's on the show,
We
man?
got Pete Marshall, we got Amanda Gordon, we've got Frank Lopes, and we have Rebecca Schernick. You don't want to miss today. We're going to talk about some F&I. We're going to talk about, is advertising fair to the customer? You're going to weigh in. Trust me, this is going to be good. Now get away, man. Come on.
One.
All right, welcome to Auto Dealer Live. I'm David Villa.
Hey, Dave Cribbs here.
What up, automotive folks? It is the month of May, wrapping up, getting ready to have a Memorial Day weekend. And what a Memorial Day to remember, right? We're not only remembering, obviously, the amazing, country and in the service of those who have, given their lives, right, for this country. So it's in memory of them and honoring them. But also the fact that I think that this will be a Memorial Day that we'll remember, because this will be a year that we will remember.
Yeah, I mean, Memorial Day is famous for, having a huge sale weekend. There's typically, there are some manufacturers that step up with additional incentives just for that time period. There are also lenders sometimes that loosen up some of the standards, Dave, in lending for that particular weekend. But we've never gone into a Memorial Day weekend where the whole country was sort of in different places and kind of, up in arms and going through this little crisis that we are. But even though we're coming back, and I think, can you imagine what this weekend would have been like if it had fallen like a month ago or 6 or 8 weeks? It would have been a disaster. But now I think we're poised for a pretty big weekend for most places.
It's interesting. Actually, though, it's very very crazy in some ways. I've seen, obviously, we've talked for weeks about, things that we've done here and what we've seen with our clients, but not even talking about that, just talking about in general, talking to dealers. Matter of fact, in talking to dealerships that we were prospecting to present our product to, I'm talking multiple dealers it's been either or. And there's been dealers that have been hurting, but there's been some dealers that many that have said, man, let me tell you something. I just talked to, I'll mention his name. I talked to Kurt Cahill at East Coast Honda, number one Honda store prior to this, and I guess they still are, I'm not sure, but number one Honda store in the state of South Carolina. I think out of, 1,100 Honda stores, I think they were ranked number 105 in the nation, right prior to February or so. He told me a couple of days ago that on Friday and Saturday, they sold over 50 cars, and just in general. And so there's been, I'm with you a little bit, but I also think that this is a huge opportunity that a lot of dealers have utilized. I hate to use the word taking advantage, because that has a negative connotation to it, but you taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there. There are customers that are out there, and that's just it. And that's just the reality. If you don't take advantage of people anytime, you're not going to take advantage of someone during this time. It's that they're just customers, and it's just really pivoting. And a phrase that, Dave, I've been kind of, I wrote it down in my notes a couple of days ago. I'm actually doing some studying on it to kind of put something together, was the phrase that's been around for a while, turn on a dime, and talking a little bit about that, turn on a dime. And then there's some things I'm going to kind of add to it. But there was an interesting story that Joe Cal and I last night went to eat at Carrabba's, and we were talking, and he was sharing something with me, and I
like Carrabba's.
Well, we didn't make a decision to go until the last minute. Actually, he helped me move some stuff, but anyway, we were sitting there talking, and we were just going over a story that he had heard, and he sent it to me. And I don't want to go through the whole story, but here's what turning on a dime or pivoting. And this is what this industry's done in many ways. We're going to talk to some folks that did that. But he was talking about a story that he was familiar with. I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's a boll weevil. It's a bug, whatever. I think I said it right. And this basically in Alabama, this is, decades ago, right? In Alabama, during a time where there was this boll weevil that was wreaking havoc on the cotton fields there. And it was literally just, wiped them out. This is how they made their living. And there was, they didn't know how to kill it. They didn't know what to do. It wouldn't die. And it was killing their crops. It devastated, literally devastated their farms. And Joe, the story in the morning, I'm kind of tying this in with the turn on the dime because I'm doing some training on it. the moral of the story is one guy had an idea. He said, let's plant peanuts instead and see if what they think about that. And they're like, peanuts, we can't make any money on that. They planted them, and evidently the boll weevil doesn't like peanuts. It doesn't eat it, won't touch them. And the long story short, they made more money in a very short period of time, like 3-month period, than they would make in a whole year's worth of cotton. So they switched their whole deal on the dime, and started planting peanuts. And so I just know that this industry has done that to some degree, and there's been the ability for us to turn on a dime. And I think that that's an important thing to look at. So anyway, what that's worth.
Yeah, well, I know some of our guests have done that. They've had to do that. Some of the guests that are coming on today have done exactly that, and including, I know, Amanda Gordon, who's owns and operates an independent dealership. I know that she had to do some major changes based on the restrictions there in their area. And then, of course, today we're also going to have Rebecca Chernick, who
Yes.
Who is not only a specialist and a trainer in finance, has been a part of F&I for so many years and one of the most recognized trainers in the country in that area. And I know I've been tuning into some of her broadcasts recently, and she's been talking a lot about the seamless finance transaction online, right? We've always talked about that, and in fact, we've even talked about, will there be a finance position in the future as we move this thing online? But obviously, in light of recent events, it's forced the hand, Dave, for a lot of those options. And when that happens, people begin to get creative and innovative and find solutions. And the next thing you know, now there's products available that make that possible for dealers. So
Yeah, there is, and she's at the forefront of really understanding that, and she's made that her passion. I mean, that's what she does.
Absolutely.
That's what she teaches. And so Rebecca's coming on, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to bring someone on as well to kind of interact with that. That's at the blacktop level. We've got an internet sales director, but also he is responsible for finance at Riverside Ford of Tulsa. And that's Pete Marshall is going to be joining us. And then we're bringing, like you said, Amanda Gordon on, where she fits into the conversation with regards to what we've been talking about. Not only does she own a dealership, she had to pivot, and she had to make some changes and do a lot of things, streamline a lot of processes, as did a lot of other folks. And so Amanda's going to come on and just talk a little bit about that. So we're going to have some really organic conversation. I think that's the best conversation. That's what we kind of are fond of. We're fond of getting some folks that know what they're talking about getting them talking. Sometimes I think, it's hard sometimes because there's people that like to post, and, we're one of those, we're two of those people. We post, and how, our team posts for us and things like that. How we feel about things. Sometimes, people feel a certain way, and if you get along with them and talk to them, you'll understand that, but you don't necessarily get the benefit of that. Because they're busy working and doing things. So we like to pull that information out of folks to get them to talk about it. So I'm interested in talking to Pete. And then we got a great thing after the first segment's over with the three of them. We're going to be bringing segment 2 on, and it's normally our spotlight segment, but we're not going to call it that today. We're just bringing Frank Lopes on, right? And Frank, obviously, Frank, and he runs his podcast. He's a great guy, but he posted something recently, and just a couple of days ago, where he talked about buyers are liars, right? And it got a lot of feedback, and we have some comments printed out, and we wanted to bring Frank on and see if we can agree and disagree a little bit and get him, talking a little bit about that, because it did stir up some passionate comments. And I think if you didn't see that post, you'll have some feedback one way or the other on that, as well as our audience. So make sure you share the show today, because I think it's going to be a good show. Maybe someone that doesn't know who we are knows you. So we'd love for you to share the show, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We ready, Mike?
Working on getting Amanda right now.
So real quick, Dave, it kind of a cool story. Last night, I was invited over to a graduation party. And so I went.
I like graduation parties.
Right? I like okay, I like Carrabba's. So I was invited to a graduation party. And I had already was informed that the owner of the home that we were going to, because it was at a house, obviously because of the situation, the owner of the home we were going to happened to be in the car business and happened to own a pretty well-recognized company out there, Car Chat 24. And we've interviewed Jeff Stearns with Car Chat 24, Tom LaPointe, formerly with Car Chat 24. But anyway, it was kind of interesting because I got there and there were a lot of people there, and then I'm kind of roaming around the living room, and there's this book laying on the counter, Unfair Advantage, and there is Sharif Moad, who is the owner of the home and owner of Car Chat 24, and it was co-authored, a best-selling book, Unfair Advantage, co-authored with many of our colleagues that have been on our show, Tracy Meyer, Tim Bird, Troy Spring, I mean, a whole bunch of Brian Posh. So it was pretty cool, and he was a great guy, a beautiful home there on Lake Tarpon here in Florida. But just thought I'd bring that. It was kind of a cool coincidence.
Cool. Car business is everywhere, right?
You
go to a graduation party, you can't help but stumble into a home of a car guy. So
right, it's pretty cool.
That's great. So, hey, make sure you comment and let us know, what you guys are experiencing. What your month's looking like. What's your market doing? We're hearing all kinds of great stories, and I think it's times like this where encouragement is just the very thing that a lot of people need. It's interesting because as states are kind of reopening and some are going into, different phases, we're seeing like states like Pennsylvania. I mean, it's just the buyers are just amazing there. I talked to my buddy Mike Savoda, who runs Buchanan Auto Park and Buchanan Chevy. I mean, Mike is right now, because he's really stepped out, and of course the state of Pennsylvania was just solidly shut down. They couldn't even do online sales until 3.5 weeks ago or so. And Mike showed me, and this is going into Maryland and other states that didn't have some of the clampdowns that they did. He's leading, this past weekend, he was leading his nearest Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership, and there was like 15 in the region. He was leading them by over 20 cars and new cars out for the month. And this is, again, about a week and a week ago. But, so just, some really amazing dealers out there, and maybe somebody and something that's going on. So we'd love to hear from you as well. What about you, Dave? You heard anything?
It kind of goes back to just depending on where you're at geographically. We've seen some places again that were just so locked down that it's been pretty impactful. But other places, the good news is that there are stories one after another, Dave, of places that are just killing it right now. And when we talked earlier in the opener about taking advantage of the sort of the season, if you will, was that it's not so much, and as you mentioned, when you say taking advantage, sometimes that has a negative connotation, but leveraging anything, like any smart entrepreneur would leverage what's going on in the marketplace in order to bring more value, right? So we're not talking about taking advantage of a customer. In fact, it's the contrary right now. There's so much out there for the buyer, and just leveraging all of that and leveraging the message, having your messaging line up with what's happening. And I think that has been a big part of the success of these dealers that are doing so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, and just give us a thumbs up, Mike, when Amanda's on. We have 2/3 on, and we're just waiting on Skype to bring in Amanda Gordon so we can get this conversation rolling. But one of the things too, we'd like to hear your feedback on this, as we're going to be doing some shows in the upcoming next couple of weeks on talking about inventory as well. With the factories now, the factories are beginning to operate again, but there is a lag there now, so they can kick it into high gear, but there's going to be a lag, and so there's going to be some dealers, at least for the month of June, that are going to be very low on new car inventory.
Inventory strategy right now today is at the top.
Yeah,
it really is with what's going on.
Well, then what happens? What's going to happen? The used car prices used cars are going to be in demand, where the auctions are going to yank them back up when they open, as they open back up. And there's going to be a very interesting race to the top to get vehicles. Another thing though that's interesting is there are, here's a time for you to play catch up. So if you hunkered down, I mean, that's whether you think that strategies worked for you or not. Maybe some of you hunkered down and didn't know what to do, and maybe you regretted it halfway through, and maybe it wasn't the best strategy then, maybe it was. But many of you that are overloaded with inventory are going to be in a position that that play catch up. You know, and here's the thing, man. It's all about opportunity, and just don't let the opportunity, I think, it pass. That's the thing. And get creative. Somebody will say, well, I can't really do anything. Because if you're texting me, Mike, I'm
there are going to be careers that are made or broken in this season right now. There really are. Really, truly believe that, because, like you said, there is some uncertainty. We use all of the available data in the marketplace and everything else of what's going on in order to get this right. But especially when we start talking about spending money, buying inventory, pre-owned inventory, you got to get that right now. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
also, Dave, can we do a sneak peek on what's coming up with Frank Lopes? Just a little teaser of
let's do
what it is.
Yeah,
the
do
topic.
It.
Just to give you guys an update, not to cut you guys off, but we have two on. We're still trying to get Amanda in. She's running into some technical difficulties on her side. So if you guys want to run, we can run.
Yeah, let's bring them on.
You want to give them a quick feedback, or you want to go forward? It's up to you.
Let's go right into our segment since
do it.
we're a few minutes off.
All right. Hey, so let's go ahead. I'll introduce them, and I'll let you go in first. So we don't want to make these people wait any longer than they have. So first segment here. Looking forward to this. We have Rebecca Chernick. She is the CEO and founder of Chernick Consulting, and we have Pete Marshall, Internet Sales Director, also involved in the finance over at Riverside Ford at Tulsa. And then, of course, she's going to be coming on here in just a moment. Amanda Gordon, owner and founder of Gojo Auto. I want to welcome you, all three of you, to Auto Dealer Live, and we appreciate your patience. And I'm going to let Cribbs go ahead and open up the conversation, and hope you guys are doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's just get right in. Let's go over to Becky, and Becky, obviously dealers have made big adjustments everywhere with this whole COVID thing, and oftentimes I think that we think about first, of course, how do we adjust our sales process, and how do we make sure that we're getting customers and actually selling cars, and then we'll figure out the finance as we go. But let's talk about what have you seen as far as how this has affected F&I process.
Well, of course, it just, again, depending upon where the dealership is actually located, how much they're affected by this COVID-19, and is going to play into that sales process, and same practices, if you will. So appointment setting, getting customers into the dealership, however which way that you can. Don't worry about addressing any customer-specific questions, that sort of stuff. So that played out really well for many years. Now with this COVID-19 and the crisis and that sort of stuff, so now it's like, well, we can't really quite do that, right? That doesn't make sense anymore to have that type of process. And now we have to have more of a consultative approach when we engage with our customers earlier on. And because of that, that has really helped to make a greater impact in the entire sales process, and actually, in a way, shorten that process and create a much better customer experience by having this information earlier on, and creating, if you will, a sense of, we appreciate who you are, we appreciate the business, and we also want to make sure that doing business with us, we're doing the right thing by our customers, and we're going to make it a safe experience. We're going to make it fun. We're going to shorten the time that it takes. It's going to be user friendly. And frankly, they live up to their word. They are credible. And because that they're credible, they're much more upfront in their sales processes, and we're streamlining the process, and we're just getting rid of the BS, the friction, and getting into the heartbeat of the deal, if you will. And that means, how do we get from the sales portion into providing customers with that specific information as it pertains to giving them the option to self-desk, to determine payment options in advance, to be able to even determine some of these product offerings in advance as well, and before they make their way into a dealership. So this is all kind of playing out, right? Trial and error. And I'm sure that there's other folks here that can talk a little bit through that as well, but seeing some really good things happening with that.
Yeah, that's great. Rebecca, you said something just a moment ago that I really loved, and we're going to come back to that in a moment and talk more about some of the options you're seeing to move the F&I process completely online for those dealers who maybe want to exercise that as that's becoming more available, if you will. But the term you used was self-desk, and I loved that, the customer being able to self-desk. I think that's going to be a catchy term in the future. But let's go over to Pete Marshall real quick. Pete is the Internet Sales Director at Riverside Ford of Tulsa in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Pete, I guess the first question is, since you're at a specific store, how hard were you guys hit? Have you been really affected? And then what have been maybe the things that you've implemented, no matter to what degree you were affected, that have seemed to be the things that have given you the most progress?
First of all, it definitely did impact us a little bit. I mean, like it did with everybody. We just had to adapt to it. we split our dealership into teams, so we were running teams on an A shift and a B shift. So it's kind of weird working every other day from home. You're at home and you think it's your day off, but you're actually still, interacting with customers. Customers are still going to go online and they're going to, still try to purchase a car or try to get as much information, as they possibly can for a car. And so we were running appointments only into the store. We did get a little bit of walk-in traffic, but not too much. And ironically, like 5 years ago when I started off in the sales, I was big into actually bringing customers their cars, for a test drive. If customers didn't want to come in the dealership, and I just tried to process easier for them. So we kind of, put that into practice to where we started taking vehicles to customers because they felt a lot more comfortable to look at the vehicle in the comfort of their home or their office and whatnot. And then we started launching a kind of prior to that, actually, we went into where you can pick your car out online. So you can pick out the car that you want online. You can actually choose your financing options, warranty, maintenance, and go all through that. So we try to streamline that process and make it easy as possible for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Hey, Amanda, let me go to you for a second. We're just talking about, obviously we're having a conversation here based on what's been going on. I know I used the phrase over in our monologue as Cribbs and I were talking, turn on a dime, and I know that that's something that you can relate to here. All of us can, but, based on what Pete just said, that he used to always, make an option to take a customer a car. The way I guess I've always looked at sales, because let's just face it, I mean, what we're talking about here is really, we call it process, but it's just the people that are good at it, quote, process, I think understand sales. I mean, that's just the reality. And I've always been one to give an option, if possible, even if it's innovative or creative or we're not normally doing it, to get a sale, and as long as it's legal, ethical, moral, but if it needs to be done, I mean, that's just really out of the box. So, let me ask you about that. I mean, isn't that something that you feel that, if you can make an option available to a customer where, it's not mandated, it's not the way it has to be, but it's an option. How do you feel about, really doing necessarily what it takes, right, to move business forward? Of course, we've had to have it happen in the last couple of months, but what's your thoughts even moving forward in that whole idea, if you don't mind weighing in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I've got my earbuds in.
We can. Yeah, we're good.
So when I started my sales career in 2002, I remember specifically a young lady had totaled her car, and this was years before Uber, so she didn't have easy access to get a ride, and I drove 30 minutes to go pick her up. I was a green pea, didn't even know what was going on at the time, right? My manager put me in a car. I went to go pick her up, brought her back to the dealership, sold her a car. Now, things are a little different as far as the social distancing and what the paperwork looks like, and the process is a little more tailored, but the concept is the same. We do what we need to do to sell a daggone car and make a buyer comfortable, confident, and happy, right? Rinse and repeat. So I think this was a great opportunity for us as car dealers. This business is phenomenal. I love my industry. And it hasn't changed in a very long time. It's been consistent and fluid, but I think this gave us an opportunity to really see where the holes were and what buyers really want, and for us to do some things that, okay, Carvana has been attempting to do, but we've kind of shunned them for trying to do this. But if it's what buyers want, then hey, it's what we got to do, because it's not up to us. They write our paychecks. So if they want cars delivered, guess what I'm doing? I'm delivering. If they want pizza, I'm delivering pizza. Whatever they want is what I'm doing. So I don't think it's new. In fact, I think it's a great time to get back to basics, right? And just listen to what they're telling us they want and come through.
I think, Rebecca, just to kind of piggyback on that, sometimes Rebecca, we've been so resistant to embrace change, because we, I think that it's partially, I think it's comfortable. I think maybe sometimes, it's the way I've done it. So it's, I don't want it to change. Why change? I'm good at it, and so forth and so on. But we don't understand what we're really good at. Those that are good at this and are leading, they're good at sales. They're good at relationship. And and people don't understand, even if you take this online or you really change this process, you have to have interaction, because there's going to be people that suck at it because they don't have people skills. And it doesn't really matter, how you choose to do it. You're going to have to, Amanda said, go back to the basics. It's possible to adapt to a fresh, online process while going back to the basics. Going back to the basics to me is not going back to horse and buggy. It's going back to what I've forgot and what I stopped doing with regards to dealing with people effectively. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and people like to stick with what they know, right? And I've had this conversation a lot, and let's face it, dealers have been very, very successful doing what they've been doing, and it's like, you know what? Don't mess up my world. I've got this. I've been doing really, really well, and my F&I department, let me tell you right now, rocks. So the chances of me changing any time soon isn't going to happen. And that in of itself is the real world. So that's what I like to address. I talk about what's the real deal. The real deal is, there's a fear factor going up here. I've been so successful, and some of these guys are making $1 billion. It's like, why in the world would I change? And I'm not even saying you have to change necessarily so much, but you have to at least embrace some of these new ideas. For example, it's not to say that people don't go into a Barnes & Noble store and buy a book still. They're going to go into a Barnes & Noble and buy a friggin' book, and they're going to go ahead, and I'm one of them, and I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and I'm going to read a book. Or there are going to be others who are going to go ahead, I'm going to get that book on that Nook, and I'm going to make my own coffee, and I'm going to do this all online. So here's the thing. I think we offer both non-traditional and traditional ways of purchasing a vehicle. We have to be out there, and we have to be able to service our customers, however which way a customer wants to be serviced. And we also have to recognize we have competitors, like you say, Carvana. You may not like Carvana, and believe me when I tell you, there's enough out there that think that Carvana is a colossal loser. Well, think again. If it's them that fail, there's going to be somebody else who wins. The genie's already out of the bottle. Yeah. How are you going to put this back in? So these are things that are that we have to think outside of our element and say, whether or not we're successful or not, let's maintain that. Let's not be a blockbuster. Let's not be a blockbuster.
Dave, thank you, Rebecca. Dave, let's talk about Carvana for a second, because we brought it up a couple of times, and maybe not use the word failure or success, because who am I to judge that? I don't really know, I don't really know what they consider successful or failure. I will say this: I don't think they're it, and it's nothing against them, because they've been around now for a while. So what they did though is what Rebecca just said. They did open up the door, but here's my thing: it's poised for dealerships to crush that. Yeah, they can crush that. Carvana can be crushed into because they're out there, and you kind of lose. You only get the phrase, guys, that you get one chance to make a first impression. First impression's out, man. It's like you can't come back and go, oh, wait, we're gonna you can only remake yourself a couple of times, and it's anyway. So I feel like the door's open for someone to come in and really take that to the level it should be.
Absolutely. We look at companies like Uber, and then in comes Lyft, and although Uber still dominates, Lyft has a huge market share, and then who's to say there's not going to be a different one in another one, right? And then there's going to be those who come along and dethrone people because they just find a better way to do it. Hopefully that is in the dealer world when we talk about franchise stores and independent dealers and things like that.
Well, I look at Uber as somebody who came and did what taxis refused to do, meaning taxis were around. So they were the person who let the cat out of the bag. Uber just got a light bulb one day and just said, okay, now let's take that to another level. Lyft kind of, whatever. They're kind of like Vroom or whatever. But I'm talking about Carvana's the taxi. somebody's going to come along, just not as much of a gap, and they're going to do it better. And it should be the OEM. It should be the new car dealer franchises, because it's not really that difficult, you know.
Yeah. I want to go back to Becky one more time, and then we'll get back over to Pete and Amanda. But Becky, I mean,
Yeah, sure.
We've had shows before where we talked about, hey, are we eventually going to see F&I go away? And I won't get too deep into that. But what I would ask you is, do you see, because I could see this do you see an opportunity for F&I online to begin to actually drive sales? Because that's the one piece of information and things that most consumers can't complete without going into a store. So do you see that as actually beginning to drive sales because they can sign up for payments that they're comfortable with right from home?
I absolutely do. And I don't know why we haven't gotten there sooner. Frankly, as we were talking about, Amanda was talking about earlier, be it from me that I've been in the business for a long, long time. And I remember when here I am in Annapolis as an F&I person, and I created Wonder Woman. And everybody thought, who the frick is Wonder Woman? And Wonder Woman was an avatar, if you will, and I was creating this subprime department, and everyone thought, there's no subprime people in Annapolis. Are you crazy? I mean, who's going to come in to a Toyota dealership in Annapolis? A subprime, they don't exist. And I said, watch me. And here again, it was how I embraced it, right? And getting and really being able, to be careful-minded how we marketed it, but at the same time, the sooner I was able to engage with that customer, to determine the story behind the reasons for the slow pay history, to determine and have my facts in order, proof of income, STIPs, etc. And we had this information up front sooner rather than the customer making their way. And here's again, it's something that worked in the past. What worked in the past, put the customer on any car will do, and we'll figure it all out when they get into the dealership, right? And, meanwhile, we got to flip them from one car to another car to make this deal work. And so it gets really ugly, and it's long, and it's just a terrible experience, as opposed to, why in the world couldn't we just go ahead and you would be able to streamline this process, sell more cars, get to the facts a whole lot sooner, and be able to maximize our profits. That's where it's going. And that's where it should be going. And I'll tell you, with this technology, the way that it is, if we can get some of these guys to realize the benefit behind this, that you want to embrace that customer earlier on, the more consultative approach that we can get earlier on, engaged earlier on, get the facts done sooner rather than later, proof of income checked out, it's just going to make more deals and make us more profitable. It's really that easy.
Thank you. Let me go to you, Pete. Pete, you've heard this, and with Rebecca talking, and going, you're there at the dealership level, and when she's saying get these guys, I mean, obviously it's guys like you, it's dealer people at the dealership level. What do you think? First of all, do you agree with that? And then secondly, why do you think, or what do you think possibly is the hesitation? Obviously Rebecca, is training dealers inside of multiple dealerships. Now virtually, I'm sure, but talk about that, Pete. Why do you think the hesitation, and do you agree with everything, or do you have your own take on it?
I agree with a lot of that, actually. I think the hesitation with just everybody is they're scared. People are just scared of change. Since this COVID-19 happened, I mean, every single one of us have had to adapt in, big ways. And it's unfortunate for some dealers that they actually had to furlough and lay people off and whatnot. But I believe that this just became like just a positive thing, in every way that you look at it, because it's a challenge. We all like a challenge. If things get to be too easy, we get stuck in that mundane, just everyday thing, like, I don't sell a car today, but I know tomorrow I'm going to sell a car. So I think this challenge is just, I'm looking at the positive aspect. I mean, some people's glass is half empty, some of them is half full. My glass is always overflowing. I mean, I'm just always ready, for a challenge. If somebody needs something different and I've never done it, I'm all in. We have a lot of younger guys here, and the younger guys have come up to, you know, us older guys, and they're like, what do we do? What do we do? Guys, I've never been through anything like this myself either. So we're gonna be together.
Right.
We're gonna adapt. So I feel like the main thing is having strong leadership at the top, and I'm very fortunate that I have that here, where it just comes from encouragement from the top, you know, from the owners to the general manager, to the general sales manager, to the desk managers, our finance managers. If anybody, you know,
Sorry.
business coming in.
You go, girl.
So I think that the biggest hesitation is fear, and no matter what, you know, I believe I'm a, you know, God. I believe in faith over fear, no matter what, in every single circumstance.
That's my next tattoo.
They require the same energy, you know, faith and fear. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. Mm-hmm. So why choose faith over fear rather than, you know, being scared like that's not going to happen? I believe that if we act out in fear, we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, before, so we can get Amanda back in. I know she just stepped away to take a call, but I want to bring her in. But Dave, just to piggyback on one thing, I know we only have a few minutes left. I think, how much time we have in this segment?
We're out.
Okay. 2 minutos.
Okay, so we're out. Did you know that?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
You actually, you looked down the moment Cribbs looked up when I gave the 5-minute signal.
Okay.
That was 7 minutes ago.
All right, so let's give them the closing remarks, but maybe you know, we'll give Rebecca a chance to wait on this, but you know, she mentioned earlier, like, you know, some are doing $1 billion, and you know, she's not saying you have to change everything, but just I heard the word, or I kind of felt like maybe the word could have been add to, and it's like, and I really love what Pete said, because leadership is the key, because you can't do that. Pete can't do that at his dealership unless he has the blessing of the leadership, right. And a lot of times, and I can relate to this because I've been this way before in my life, where you're so busy that you're too busy to change. You're so and it's procrastination. You push it off, but what you do is you don't realize that if you push it off too long, too far, you're late to the party.
Yeah.
And I think that it's leadership and having the courage to embrace, because you could without changing or upsetting the apple cart, you could add to. You know, and that's really what you need to do. You don't need to. You never. You know, turning on a dime is the ability to adapt. You know, and make some changes. You know, so that you're not caught off guard. You're bringing some things together quickly in a very small amount of time. Yeah. And that's what I think that needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's just timing, right? And we'll have Becky close us out with a closing comment. But I think
back?
I think that
Amanda's
back. Okay, Becky, just hang on. I'm gonna go to Amanda real quick because we want to get her back in the conversation while she's on. Amanda, I think that, you know, the timing of this, the fact that every dealer in the country virtually is going through this, the whole world's going through it, right? So my thinking is that, you know, if there's a time to look at change, even though some of us are forced to, now is it, right? It's almost, has it given you more confidence because it's forced you into a position of change? We know that everybody's changing, so everyone's trying to figure it out, but has it given you more confidence when you make a change and you see a difference and you go, you know what? Wow, there might be better ways to do things than just the way that we're afraid to step away from.
Well, absolutely. Reflection and pivot, I think, are my two favorite words for 2020. And
nope, we lost her.
Okay, we lost her. I'll let you wrap that up, Becky, if you don't mind. Just kind of weigh in and with a closing comment.
As far as how I see this whole thing panning out, you know, if you don't mind me just saying this really quick, I remember the days when when we implemented menu selling for the first time in the AutoNation Megastore days, right? And it was just freaking radical. It was radical. It was like, are you kidding me? We're not meeting customers in the middle of a showroom somewhere at a kiosk, for crying out loud, and we're going to go ahead and present a menu, and we're going to be terribly upfront. Customers are going to understand a base payment They're going to understand the terms of the sale. They're going to have the APR sticking right out in front of them. And then this is all before you're going to present products. Are you out of your mind? There is no way this is going to work. And so, at first I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know how this is going to work, but I'm going to do what I'm told to do. And I'm out here and I am in different dealer and mega stores all over the country, and I'm seeing some stuff for the first time I never would have believed. If you could have paid me $1 million had I not seen it for myself. And then from there, everybody in the naysayer said, you can't do this stuff, don't you know? And then we took the nation by storm. And not only in the mega stores, we went into the new car stores. And frankly, that's how it got born, right? That's how it all happened. So here's what I think. There is no such thing as walls. Get the walls out of your head. If this is where a customer wants to meet you online, you meet them online. If they want to meet you, in the service department, you meet them in the service department. Wherever that it is, wherever their comfort zone is, this is where I want to engage with a customer. And I'm going to walk them down the digital journey of the sale. I'm going to make them comfortable. I'm going to make them understand what that buying experience is all about. You know what? I'm going to sell them a car. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to convert them over to my financing. I'm going to get my deal bought. And you know what? I'm going to do what that dealer expects. I'm going to protect the dealer assets. I'm going to verify my customer to make sure that the information's accurate, and I can obtain funding. And I can get better deals done, and customers are going to love me all together for it. That's what we're doing.
It's good stuff.
And man, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. And we're moving forward. So this is good.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you for having me.
No, our pleasure. Thank you, Pete Marshall, Rebecca Chernick, and thank you, Amanda Gordon. She dropped off, so I really appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to having you guys again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We've got the one and only Frank Lopes just around the corner right after this short break, and we're going to be discussing. We're going to give you a little tease here. So we're going to be discussing what I called you Blaze again. Our general manager here, my GM is Blaze. I don't know why I keep doing it.
I'll keep this on the down low.
We call you both by your last names. That's why Blaze, and we call you
That's
Cribs.
true.
I guess I don't.
That's because there's 50 Daves here.
Yeah, that's true.
Buyers are liars.
That's what he's talking about.
Buyers are liars. Or are dealers liars?
Frank wants to know. We want to know what you think. Right around the corner, Frank Lopes. I'm just putting this mic on, guys, and going to try something here. This is off the cuff. All right, so while I'm sitting here, the marketing team pulled up Facebook, and so we have Facebook events going on. I'm going to let you sit there in real time and watch as comments come in. Check this out. These are people responding. Okay, they responded to me, yes. We're just going to keep the camera here for a second and watch what happens. Can't today, how about tomorrow? That's with a dealership in Texas. These are people responding to the ads as we speak. A minute ago, there were 15 or 20 of them just lined up one after the other. There's another one. I think I have an appointment for Friday, but if not, schedule me, please. That's one of Randall Reese. There's another one. Hugo Perez says, I'm good. I was just checking out the post. I think I'm going to keep what I have. Okay, that's all right. He still responded. It's just one after the other for the dealers across the country that are running this. If you're looking for something right now, they will do anything to make a sale. Yes, we will. Hey, I like the used 2018 F-250, and the only thing I could trade in was a 2000 Ford Ranger. There's a person for Baird Dodge. This is Toothman Ford. This is Malloy Toyota. This is Baird pre-owned. This person said yes, they're responding to the BDC. Just get a quick shot, but that's just some of the people taking the appointments. There you go, Ez. These are people answering. Did you get my info? Person impatiently asking for one of the Randall Reese stores. Did you get my info? How about this one? I can't get a loan through One Main. I'd say it's a long shot. Call me. Malloy Ford. I mean, these are just people commenting off the ads over and over. Look at this. This person's giving their address because they have an appointment. We're going to send them in. You guys have just watched this live. So let me just give you a little feedback really quick. We're doing Facebook events with a very, very specific message. It's not Facebook, just a Facebook event. There's a very specific message. We're signing up stores left and right. One of our stores started Friday morning, this past Friday, today's Monday. We walked in today, over 1,500 people had commented and or sent a direct message. These are people that are responding over and over. Look, we'll just one more time here, just so you know, this is just live. Person giving their address. All right, here's another one here. Person from Malloy Toyota, they're answering a question. They're saying no. This is another one for Toothman Ford, giving their address for an appointment, their email address. I'm good for any, I'm assuming that's going to say any day. These are people that are getting responses right now to this ad. Hey, if you're interested in this, the number is going to be on the screen. Give us a buzz or email me at david@ipdagency.com. The number and the email address will be on the screen. Hey, what do you got to lose? Right now, we are batting 1,000 and we're signing up dealers left and right on this program. Dealers are telling their 20 group partners and friends about it and their sister stores about it. Just today alone, we signed up 5 stores that will refer to us. Reach out to us. All right, we're back, Auto Dealer Live, and we got a great segment coming up here, man. Looking forward to this. I saw this post a couple of days ago, got it printed out here, and along with some comments. And Frank always knows how to stir up some stuff, man. And he did it again, and we got Frank Lopes on. But Frank posted buyers or liars, and he went on to kind of play both sides. You know, he does that too, kind of just walks right down the middle of the fence, lets everybody take shots and just laughs. Anyway, so Frank, welcome to the show, man, and longtime brother. But great post, great content, you know, good feedback. Everybody took their shots, and so, you know, what were you thinking about? What made you think about this? You know, you're a marketing guy, so I'm assuming you know, obviously, you know what you're talking about. You've seen a copy this aggressive, and you know why dealers do it. So talk a little bit about the post, and let's get into this.
Well, I'll tell you, David, number one, thank you for having me back on Auto Dealer Live again. I don't think I can count high enough. Like, I don't know a number high enough for the amount of times that I have been on the show. So thank you so much for having me here. And, you know, like most things like this that I post, they come out of, I mean, honestly, they just come out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
This came from a conversation that I had with one of our dealer partners earlier that day, and he spit out the term, well, you know, buyers are liars. And I was like, well, why do they lie?
Right.
And that's what I got back was like, well, they lie because, you know, they lie because.
Oops.
Okay. Yeah.
A little frozen there, but we got most of that. So let's go ahead and yeah, he's going to reconnect. But
made me think, you know what?
Here we go.
Go ahead, Hank.
Okay, so that made me think, I want to hear what other people have to say about this, because look, buyers or liars are one of the first sayings that we're taught in the car business. Like, you know, you start on your first day. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's no training or anything, but somebody teaches you somewhere that all the customers coming in, that they're all going to lie to you.
Yeah. So,
you know, and then somebody says buyers are liars.
Before you go into this, Cribs, because I know we're going to go, because this was not until what he said, just what he said. That wasn't even where the direction we were going. I think we were going to go the marketing side, but I want to say this: what a crappy thing to do in the first place, right? In any company, can you imagine an employee's first day? I mean, I don't think that flies a lot today, Frank. It really shouldn't, right? In any industry, can you imagine like an orientation? You're like, all right, welcome to ABC Corporation, and by the way, our customers suck, you know, and you know, say they're a bunch of dirt bags. I mean, that's in reality. Like, I could never see myself, you know, as many things as dealers do, and as hard as they are to sell, which is what we all do. You know, I don't tell our reps here, like, man, let me tell you something. These guys are, you know, we really want to help them, and yeah, they're tough, and yeah, they're brassy, and yeah, they're bold, and yeah, they're sometimes jerks, and you know, but you got to overcome those things. But I mean, we don't go through. You know what I'm saying? That's just, first of all,
right.
That is
David. The dealer, the dealer doesn't say that to the green pea coming in, right? The manager doesn't say that. The other salespeople say it,
right? Come on.
It's the other people that go and they get into their ear with this ba 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 ba, and they put that negativity in there, and a lot of times they spoil somebody who could be really, really good. But hey, if you want to,
at a dealership not too long ago, we were there. Remember that happened? Mm-hmm. We saw that with some green peas. They were, I mean, it was one guy that was there like a week, was like outselling everyone, and or like a month, and he was too green. And the guy that was there like 3 months, he was pissing all over everything. Yeah. It was like, you know, well, what happened in that 2 months?
You know, you have two responsibilities as a salesperson. One is to sell cars, and the second one is to drive all the new salespeople away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, what's your thoughts, Dave? I mean, with this whole subject.
Well, my thoughts are, you know, there's truth in it. It's the way that it's talked about, I think, that's so controversial. But where the truth lies is that, you know, we all know that, you know, anyone who walks into a store they say things that aren't necessarily what we would think of as truth in order to ultimately protect themselves. And I think that was the point Frank was making is maybe are they just liars, or are they protecting themselves from the dealers, things that we do, the tactics we've had in the past, the things that a customer could get caught up in if they don't have some excuse that they're going to make as to get out of Dodge, right? Is that correct, Frank? Am I on the right track?
You're totally correct. They're not, and here's the thing too, they're not really protecting themselves from something that the dealer has said, because if the customer is walking in for the very first time, which over the last 90 days has happened like 6 times in all the dealerships across the country, right? Mm-hmm. Because now we're so into a appointment setting type of thing. With every single dealership has seen their leads go through the moon over the last 60 days, and they're all like, I wonder why. Why is because nobody wants to leave the house is why, mm-hmm. right? But it's not because of the fact that we have lied to them in that one interaction. It's because of their perception. It's because of the public perception of what goes on in the car dealership. Because still to this day, gentlemen, think back and try to give me one instance in popular culture where the car dealership has been put in a positive light. Yeah, it doesn't exist. Yeah, there has not been one. It doesn't happen. So they think right away. They come into the relationship like we're guys rolling up to girls at a bar at last call. They have that same type of defensive type of thing. Mm-hmm. So instead of us going in, sending out messages in the beginning, we'll pay off your trade no matter how much you owe. Yeah, and you're still going to pay how much we paid off. You can buy a car for $99 down, $99 a month. I'm not saying that we didn't do those messages. Hey, I was just as guilty as doing them, right? Mm-hmm. But now it's coming into a point, and it's been at a point already where that type of stuff is not necessary.
Yeah,
definitely not necessary, and that's the reason why they come with their fists up.
So let me get into the discussion a little bit with you. I'm not sure what happened. We got the slide up in front of us there, but okay, are we still okay? Good. Can you hear us, Frank?
I can hear you.
Okay, so great. Something happened to the video. So, all right. So let me throw out now you and I can kind of wrap here a little bit on the marketing side. So I agree with you. In part because some of the things you said possibly could never be done. If it's a bait and switch, then obviously there's no place for that. But let's look at like strong or aggressive advertising in general. The car industry, right, has always been, and I think it's still to this day, because it's so expensive. People a lot of times try to relate a car purchase to other things, like a phone. Be more like Apple, be more like Starbucks. Well, my coffee's $5.48. Yeah. In my phone, phones are not cheap; they're $1,000 or whatever they are. But cars are far more than that. So it's one of these things where dealers have always had to force the market. Because it's an emotional decision. Somebody does hesitate and put some pause there when they're spending that kind of money. So there's the need to get, aggressive. But let me throw this out there. We're at the same time, I think there's some dealers that possibly might not know how to use some of the offers that are out there. For instance, if you're going to go around the financing, there's dealers that don't want anything to do with someone with bad or low credit, and that's an issue where somebody would say, hey, we can finance you at all cost, all credit's going to be accepted. Then they go into another dealership that doesn't really deal with subprime, and they get jaded from the standpoint of all dealerships are, they can't really get me done. So maybe it's just that dealer doesn't want to work that hard, have that department to chase those steps to get that done. So I think isn't there kind of two sides to that, Frank? In other words, there is the ability possibly to get aggressive on marketing. Is it really where it crosses the line possibly to a lie, or what's your thoughts?
It definitely crosses a line, and that's the line that honestly right now we don't have to cross. And I'm saying we don't have to cross it because it's not necessary. Let's go special finance. It's not necessary to say, we'll get you bought if you've never paid anybody. We'll get you bought even if you've kicked your dog every day, if you've been arrested, right? If you've never paid child support, just come down here and you drive in a car. Like those types of things are not necessary to say. It's necessary to say that you are, and I'm putting this in layman's terms, you're sympathetic and you're empathetic and you're equipped to help somebody with maybe a cash income, or maybe who's had a bankruptcy, or maybe who's recently went through a divorce. Right? It's okay. It's fine to say that you're empathetic, you're sympathetic, and you're equipped to handle, as opposed to saying that, you know, if you just got out of jail yesterday, you can get approved for a brand new Tahoe.
That's a big gap, though, right?
You know?
Cribs, that's a big. I think that's a little bit of a big gap. I'm agreeing with Frank. Like, hey, we can get you done regardless. You know, man, I tell you what, if you got in jail, if you're freaking, you know, capital murder, you know, but there's I think that's a big stretch from also the lingo. Maybe he said. That's just my opinion. Maybe there's somewhere in the middle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to unwrap here with that, and that is a big stretch. And you know, one of the things that comes to mind, Frank, is you know, how about the dealer who has the car that the MSRP is $43,000, but they can sell it for $24,995 to an active duty Army military nurse that's currently enrolled full time in school who's leasing a competitor's product, and you know, and qualifies for this, and that, and is a member of Better Homes and Gardens and all of that good stuff.
And you only have 4 toes.
Right. So, but is that deceptive to say that, hey, this car could be bought for this if all of these things applied? Come see the dealer.
Disclaimers. So disclaimers, Frank. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Right, and that's the exact point of the post. That was the exact point of the post, is that when, you know, there are reasons that every single state in our amazing and beautiful country has rules and regulations against what you just said, Cribs. There's reasons that they have that, because it's not the right thing to do to people. Now, look, if you are in the town, Killeen, Texas, okay, and you both of you guys have been there. That's why I brought it up. If you're in Killeen, Texas, and you're right next to Fort Hood, the largest military base in the world, and you advertise each and every single one of your vehicles, including the military rebate, right, with the military rebate in the number, you're probably okay. Right, you're okay, because 80% of your customer base is going to qualify for that military rebate, right? If you're going to do that in central New Jersey, where I am, in Monmouth County, where like 0.001% of people were in the military, you know, come on, you don't have to do that. And also saying the realtor discount on top of the farmer discount on top of the military discount.
What about a saying, like I've been a lot of dealers we've been working with have gone this route. What about, you have some really strong subprime lenders. You've got a great, and I'm going back subprime again. I'm just going to bring this up. You got somebody that's going to do the work, chase the steps. They've got amazing relationships with lenders that are going to be lower tiered lenders. Of course, the interest rates are going to be higher. There was going to be some downstroke required, but this person can get a car here where there's a really good chance that there are 4 or 5 other dealers in the area that won't touch them. So that dealer says, hey, bankruptcies, repossessions, you know, bad credit, not a problem. Come on down. All credits can be accepted.
That's right. 100%. That's totally fine. There's that, and that's not lying, because that's actually true. Because a customer who comes in who has marginal credit, you know, they know they have marginal credit. They know it. I don't think there's anybody who's ever been like, you know, surprised, oh my God, like I had a bankruptcy. What? No, they know. Yeah. They know. They know when they expect.
My credit scores are what?
Yeah. If my identity is ever stolen, the joke is on them.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right, exactly. So that was the whole point. Like you know, because of the fact that we said things like, you know, any vehicle in stock, $99 a month, you know, $99 down, or that big, or $99 a month.
What's your beef with KBB? So I know you said something in the post, or somebody said something I thought in the post here. You know, so what if I'm a dealer? Hey, you know what? We'll give you 20% or $4,000 over KBB for your vehicle.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
Because that's a freaking beautiful one, right? That's a beautiful one, and that goes right into the whole thing of why buyers are liars, because you tell them that you're going to do that, knowing that the customer is either A, going to go online, go to KBB, use the tool wrong, right? They're going to inaccurately appraise their car, because everybody says their car is excellent. They're going to put in the wrong mileage. They're going to miss stuff on it, right? And they're not going to hit the trade-in value. They're going to hit the retail value. And all that is baiting the customer in for an argument. That's all it does, is bait the customer in for an argument, and then you wonder why you have to argue with the customer about what their car's worth when they say, "Well, KBB says it's worth that," and then the old comeback is, "Well, KBB's not going to buy your car, but I will."
Give me one example. Give Frank one example. Throw him one curveball where a customer does say something that misrepresents, and a dealer has to deal with a customer that could be lying.
Oh, well, I think it's
I mean, is there?
Well, there's always the lie of "I'll be back," right? But let's go back to what Frank had mentioned about the customer.
But what about something unreasonable they want?
Something unreasonable would be, here's an example. When we look at average or fair condition or good condition, most people equate that. The average consumer equates it to how clean they keep their car, right? It could be a 3-year-old car. It's got 80,000 miles, and they're putting the mileage correct, 80,000 miles, but then they'll put above average condition because the thing is clean as a whistle, right? Well, any dealer in the world, I don't care if they put the right mileage in or not, as soon as you look at 80,000 miles on a 3-year-old car, you never go to above average condition. It's always less than
because the
average.
next buyer won't consider
because the mileage automatically puts you in that place. That's correct. So that's just an example of the difference of a way a consumer would look at their car, which to them and on the surface logically makes sense, but unfortunately it doesn't make sense in the wholesale world. So
Frank, closing remarks on that?
Closing remarks on that is it's perfect, because look, over the last 60 to 90 days, every dealer has had issues with the trade-in values, because all of the trade-in tools that are available online are all so heavily dependent on on the not wholesale values. I'm sorry, on auction values. Mm-hmm. They're all so heavily dependent on auction values, and there haven't been any auctions, so there haven't been any updates.
But
so
Frank,
that is.
But Frank, I have to ask you, and I'm sorry, but I have to ask you this: what about the dealer that says, "I get it, but if I don't do that, the people aren't on the lot. I get the people here, I get the opportunity, we close the deals. Hey, I'm successful at the end of the day."
I will give you 40 examples of how you don't have to do that, and you can actually increase your sales. That's fear. That is said 100% from fear, David. That's it. That's 100% fear of change. That's 100% fear of, that's the way I've always done it, so I don't want to change. That's all that comes down to. That's it. Because the dealers who are doing something like that and they think that they have to do it too, that's absolutely silly. That you're fighting fire with fire is not going to work. I tell those dealers as well, find another way. There's another way around it. If your competition is advertising all these new cars with all these rebates and all this ridiculous stacking stuff, or if they're taking downed loaner cars and they're showing them as new and stuff like that, and you can't compete with that price, then you know what? Strip all of your prices offline. Show just MSRP with a line through it and a big button that says get your customized price quote, or a big button that says, how low can we go, and generate your leads and qualify the lead, quote them an accurate price, and sell the benefit of coming in for an appointment. Find a different way. Find a different way.
So you heard it right there from Frank Lopes. We could talk about this for a long time. We should probably have you back, Frank. I'd love to do this.
Of course we should.
I think it's really good to kind of do this and, get some good dialogue like this going. So, hey, make sure you guys comment what your opinion is. Obviously everyone I think is going to have an opinion on this, and a lot of good comments coming in already. But Frank, thank you, man, for joining us.
And let me give Frank just 1 second to promote your new book. You have a new book out.
I almost forgot.
The 7-minute setup.
The 7-minute setup. You guys, especially all my auto pros, man, if you want to learn the way on how to set your goals and how to actually achieve them, measurably achieve them in less time than you ever thought, buy this book. It's available exclusively on Amazon. 7-minute setup. Nice and thin. Look, nice and thin. This is the process that I used. It will work for you too.
Good job, Frank.
Awesome, Frank. Thank you so
man.
much.
Thank you, guys. Love you guys.
All right. See ya.